Jason sat in the corner of the sealed shelter, breathing hard as silence filled the dark space. The emergency lights glowed red, flickering every few seconds. Across the small room, Xel'Nari crouched like a beast ready to pounce. Her eyes were wide. Her breathing was louder than before. She wasn't saying anything now, just watching him. He had removed his outer suit, thinking the heat was coming from the power core. But now he realized something else. It wasn't just mechanical heat. It was her. Her body was radiating it. Her skin glowed faint blue. Sweat dripped from her neck. She didn't blink as she stared. Jason tried again to reach the command post, tapping on the communicator, but only static answered. He muttered, come on," and smacked it once. That's when she moved. Fast, quiet, she crouched. In front of him in less than a second. He froze. She reached out and touched his chest. Not hard, gently. Her fingers traced over the logo on his suit. Her hand trembled. He didn't know what to do. She leaned in close, sniffed near his neck, then whispered, "You smell like fight and sky." Jason blinked. "What?" he said, heart pounding. Her head tilted. Her voice was shaky. "You, chosen. You not know?" Jason's mouth went dry. "Chosen? What do you mean?" Xel'Nari's hand pressed against her own chest. Body say yes. You, yes. Heat. Start now. Jason scrambled back. "Whoa, okay, wait, what are you talking about?" She frowned. "No one tell? No prepare?" "Prepare for what exactly?" He snapped, panicking now. She stood suddenly, breathing faster, chest rising and falling. She tore off the shoulder guard of her armor and dropped it on the ground. "I burn," she said. "And you, here." Jason couldn't look away. He wasn't afraid she would hurt him, but something was wrong. Her words, her eyes, they were foggy. She didn't look in control anymore. He remembered what the briefing said. Tairaxi females had rare biological cycles, some kind of deep instinct triggered by environmental stress. But that was years ago. He thought it was rumor. Myths. "I need to get out," he muttered. But the shelter was sealed, underground, airtight. He was trapped. With her, she didn't move toward him again. She just sat on the floor now, hugging her knees, rocking slightly. "No hurt," she whispered. "I fight it. But you smell like storm." Jason took a slow breath. She wasn't attacking. She wasn't forcing. She was struggling. He watched as she shook. Her arms were tight around her own body. She was biting her lip, trying not to look at him. Her tail thumped the ground once, twice, like it was twitching on its own. He took a risk. Crawled toward the far corner where the small gear bag rested, pulled out his backup translator. Turned it on. The screen blinked. Then linked. Xel'Nari looked up, her face full of hope. "You understand now?" Jason nodded slowly. "Little bit. Tell me, what's happening to you?" She closed her eyes. "The heat comes once in a lifetime, when our heart chooses. It cannot be stopped. I never expected it. I trained. I served. I was warrior, but then I saw you." "Saw me?" She nodded. "Your kindness, your smell, your calm, body accepts. Now I burn. But I do not want to break you." Jason's hands trembled. "You think I'm your mate?" Her voice softened. "My body does, my heart too, I think. But I will not force. I can sit far if you want, but it hurts." Jason looked at her. Really looked, her proud face, her hands shaking. She was trying to protect him, even in pain. She didn't ask for this either. And he didn't ask to be chosen. But neither of them had a choice anymore. He slid a bottle of water toward her. "Drink this," he said quietly. She grabbed it, drank, then looked at him with glowing eyes. "Why help?" "Because you're still a person," Jason said. "Not just instincts." Her lips trembled. She pressed her hand to her chest again. "You have strong heart, Jason leaned back. His mind screamed to run. But his heart whispered something else. Maybe she wasn't just a partner. Maybe fate had thrown them together for a reason. He watched as she curled into the corner, trying to stay far. Trying to control herself. She didn't sleep. She just kept whispering to herself in her own tongue. And Jason stayed awake too. Because now he wasn't just afraid of her heat. He was afraid of what it was doing to him. Jason didn't sleep. That night, his back rested against the metal wall of the underground shelter, while his eyes stayed locked on the dim outline of Xel'Nari. She hadn't moved much since curling into her corner. She breathed deep. Her skin pulsed with a soft blue glow. But she stayed away, just like she promised. It had been hours since she told him what was happening to her. A lifetime heat, a bond chosen by instinct and heart. Something sacred to her. People, something impossible for him to understand fully. But Jason couldn't stop thinking about it. She hadn't touched him again. She didn't even look at him unless he spoke. She seemed focused on controlling herself, as if every second was a battle with her own body. Jason had never seen anything like it. Not on Earth, not even in war. This wasn't just some wild alien urge. This was something deeply painful. Deeply emotional. He reached for the food pack and unwrapped a small protein bar. The sound made her flinch. He noticed it right. Away? Hungry? He asked gently. She turned her head slowly. No, not for food. Jason's heart skipped. The translator turned her words cold and honest. She didn't mean to make it sound like that. She looked away quickly, ashamed. I didn't mean. She whispered. I know, Jason said. He stood, stretched his legs, and slowly walked to the middle of the shelter. You can come out of the corner, he said. You're not a prisoner. She raised her eyes. They were wet. If I move closer, it gets harder. I get it, he said. But this hiding, this fear, it's killing you. She hesitated, then crawled forward a few steps, staying low. Jason sat across from her, just out of reach. They stared at each other in silence. Then he spoke. I've seen soldiers lose themselves to anger, to pain, but never to this, he said. She nodded slowly. Because most don't survive this without hurting someone. Jason's fingers tightened on the empty wrapper. You haven't hurt me. Not yet, she whispered. I don't think you will, he said. Xel'Nari blinked. Why? Because you're stronger than it. Her body trembled slightly. I don't feel strong. You're still fighting. Jason said. Even when everything inside you says take what you want, you still ask. You still wait. She looked down. Because I want it to be real. I want you to choose me too, Jason inhaled sharply. That was the first time she sounded vulnerable, truly scared. Not of her body, but of his answer. I don't know what this bond means, he said quietly. But I know one thing. You could have forced me. You didn't. That matters. Xel'Nari crawled a little closer now, slow like a scared animal. May I sit beside you? Jason paused, then patted the ground next to him. Yeah, sit. She sat, knees tucked, tail curled around her ankles. Her shoulder brushed his, and he felt the warmth coming from her skin. She leaned her head back, closed her eyes, and breathed deep. You smell calmer now, she whispered. Jason chuckled. Thanks, I guess. It comforts me, she said. Not just smell, you being here. Jason looked at her side profile. The war-hardened face, the glowing lines down her neck, the scar near her cheekbone. And yet, in this moment, she looked so small, so tired, so human. Is it always like this? He asked. For your kind? She nodded. For my kind, it is pain, fire and blood. But if bond is returned, it becomes joy. Jason lowered his voice. So if I said I care, it might help? Her head turned fast. You care? I think I do, he said. Not just because of the bond, but because I see you. Fighting, trying, protecting me when no one else would. Her eyes widened. She leaned in slightly. Then, I am not alone? Jason shook his head. No, you're not. She didn't cry, but her throat made a quiet sound, a soft hum like music. She rested her head gently on his shoulder. Jason didn't stop her. He let it happen. And for the first time since the attack, the shelter felt peaceful. They sat like that for hours, neither speaking. The war above was still raging. The emergency lights were still dim. But inside the shelter, something had changed. Not just biology, not just instinct, something deeper had awakened. Something human, something alien, and something that belonged to both of them now. The shelter door unlocked with a loud hiss. Cold light poured in from above. Jason blinked hard as soldiers rushed down the ladder with weapons drawn. His hand went up fast. Wait! Don't shoot! Behind him, Xel'Nari stood tall, shielding his body with hers. She let out a low growl from deep in her chest. The soldiers stopped in confusion, unsure whether to aim or lower their weapons. One of them raised a scanner and pointed it at Xel'Nari's neck. Stand down, female. You're being removed for medical containment. She didn't move. Jason stepped in front of her, arms wide. She's not dangerous, he shouted. She saved me. One of the officers came forward. Sir, we received heat signatures suggesting Tairaxi bond activity. That's considered biologically unstable. She needs to be separated. No, Jason said. You separate us now, and you'll hurt her. She's been in control the whole time. Xel'Nari's tail curled around his leg. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her body was trembling again. Jason could feel it. This wasn't fear of weapons. This was fear of being taken from him. The officer lowered his voice. You're saying you accept the bond? Jason looked over his shoulder. Xel'Nari met his eyes. She didn't blink. Her eyes said everything. She would rather die than be taken away. I do, Jason said finally. Whatever that means in your files, I accept it. The officer nodded. Then you stay together, but under watch. Jason and Xel'Nari were escorted to the surface. The war zone above was quieter now. Emergency crews moved through ruins. Smoke still rose from broken towers. But the worst had passed. A medical tent stood nearby. Jason was led inside and checked. First, no injuries, just dehydration and stress. Then they brought Xel'Nari in. But she refused to lie down unless he stayed beside her. The doctor scanned her vitals and frowned. She's still mid-cycle. If the bond is incomplete, this could hurt her. Jason looked confused. What does that mean? She chose you, the doctor said. But if you don't fully accept her soon, her body may shut down from emotional conflict. Xel'Nari looked away. Jason took her hand gently. Tell me what you need. She squeezed his fingers. I don't need body. I need heart. I need you to choose me not with fear, but with trust. Jason nodded. Then trust me back. Don't shut down. Fight this with me. She turned to the doctor. Let us rest. Together. Jason stayed with her in the tent. Through the night, she lay beside him, wrapped in blankets, her head on his chest. No tension. No heat, just calm. She whispered old stories from her homeworld. He told her how Earth sunsets looked over the ocean. They didn't speak of war. They didn't speak of bonds. They just existed quietly, side by side. But the peace didn't last long. The next morning, 2 armored carriers landed. Tairaxi elders stepped out tall and cold. They wore robes that shimmered like stone. The leader, Elder Xurek, pointed at Xel'Nari. She belongs to us, he declared. The human has corrupted her. The bond must be broken. Xel'Nari stood tall. The bond is true. It is forbidden, the elder growled. Jason stepped forward. She's not your property. She is Tairaxi, Xerax snapped. She must return home and be purified. Jason turned to Xel'Nari. Do you want to go? She didn't speak for a long time. Her eyes were locked on the elder. Then she stepped in front of Jason. I will not leave him, she said clearly. He touched my heart. He saw my fire and did not run. If that breaks law, then your law is broken. Gasps came from the Tairaxi. The elder's eyes narrowed. Then face the rite of fire. Walk it. Prove your words. Jason stepped in. What? Right? Xel'Nari looked down. Her voice dropped. A sacred trial. Painful. Rare. If I succeed, they must honor the bond. You'll get hurt, Jason said. I already hurt without you, she whispered. He reached for her hand. She held it tightly. The wind around them howled across the burnt land. But Jason knew one thing now with full certainty. She didn't just want him because of instinct. She had chosen him with her soul. Asterisk. The path to the rite of fire was carved through stone, heat, and silence. A narrow canyon stretched between two sharp cliffs. Fires burned in hanging iron bowls along the edges. Old Tairaxi guards lined the way in full ceremonial armor. The sky above was gray and dry. No birds. No wind. Only ash drifting through the air like falling sparks. Jason walked beside Xel'Nari, heart heavy. She wore a simple robe made of white cloth, tied at her waist. No weapons, no armor. Her skin glowed faintly, but her face was calm, focused. As they reached the starting point, Elder Xerax raised his hand. Once you step forward, he said coldly, you walk alone. No help, no rest. Fire will judge truth from lies. Jason clenched his fists. She shouldn't have to prove love to anyone. The elder didn't reply. He just nodded at Xel'Nari. She turned to Jason. Her voice was soft. You once stood in front of danger for me. Now let me walk through fire for you. Jason wanted to stop her, wanted to scream. But he knew this was her choice. Her people didn't listen to words, they listened to sacrifice. Xel'Nari stepped forward. The first stone she touched hissed. It was hot, glowing faint orange. She took a deep breath and walked barefoot into the canyon. Flames burst along the walls. The air shimmered with heat. Her robe clung to her skin. Her steps slowed, but she did not stop. Every step burned. Every breath trembled. But she kept going. Jason stood at the edge, heart pounding. The soldiers didn't speak. Even the elder stayed quiet. This wasn't a show, it was real. One mistake, and she would collapse from heat shock or fall into fire traps lining the path. Halfway through, she stumbled. Jason stepped forward, but a guard raised a spear. No, the elder said firmly. If you help, the rite ends. Jason's teeth clenched. He watched as Xel'Nari dragged herself back up. Her knees were red, skin blistering, but she didn't cry. Didn't scream. She kept moving, one foot after another. Her glowing body burned brighter with each step. Jason whispered her name under his breath. Come on, keep going. She looked up, saw him at the far end, and smiled. That small smile carried her the rest of the way. When she reached the end, her legs buckled. Jason caught her in his arms. She collapsed into him, breathing shallow but steady. Her skin was hot, her robe soaked in sweat, but she was alive. She did it, Jason said. She finished your test. Elder Xerax stepped forward. His face was unreadable. Then he nodded slowly. The rite is past, he said. The bond is now sacred. She is free to remain with her chosen. Jason felt her hand move against his chest. She was shaking. Her voice barely reached his ear. Did I prove myself? Jason leaned closer. You didn't have to. But yes, you proved everything. He carried her to the medics. They worked fast, using healing salves and cooling wraps. She didn't speak much, just watched him. Her fingers never let go of his hand. Even as her skin healed, she kept whispering his name like a chant. That night, they stayed in a private tent together. The heat of her cycle had faded, her body was calming, but her heart remained full. She sat beside Jason, wrapping a blanket around both of them. "I don't want to be alone again," she said. "You won't be," Jason replied. "Wherever you go, I'll be there." She smiled faintly. "Your world won't accept me. My world never accepted me either," Jason said. "Until you did." She leaned into him, resting her head on his chest again. "I was born to fight, raised to obey. But when I met you, I learned something new." "What's that?" "I can love." Jason looked down at her face. Even scarred, even tired, she looked beautiful. Not just because of how she glowed, but because of how strong she had been. She fought biology, tradition, pain, and fire just to stay by his side, and he knew then. He didn't care what planet she came from, he loved her too. 3 weeks passed since Xel'Nari walked the rite of fire. The war had ended. A ceasefire was signed. The joint base was no longer under threat. Tairaxi forces had pulled back to their borders. Human Command had called Jason in for debriefing. But they didn't expect him to bring her with him. When the two entered the Earth Alliance command room together, all eyes turned. Officers whispered, some stared. Others shifted uncomfortably. Jason held her hand anyway. He wasn't ashamed. Not after everything they survived. General Holloway stepped forward. "Sergeant Jason Cole, you've made quite a name for yourself." Jason nodded. "I only did what was right." The general's eyes moved to Xel'Nari. "And what's your status?" Jason answered before she could speak. "She's my partner, my bondmate." One of the council members leaned forward. "That's not official military protocol." Jason's jaw tightened. Neither was surviving with her underground. Neither was standing in front of her people while they tried to tear us apart. General Holloway raised his hand. "We've reviewed your report. We've seen the footage. Her actions saved your life. And the peace process." Jason stayed silent. The general continued. "You'll be granted an honorable discharge, full civilian rights. We won't stop you from staying with her." Jason blinked. "You mean?" "We're not blind," the general said. "This alliance was built on more than politics. Sometimes it takes something personal to remind us what peace costs." Later that night, Jason and Xel'Nari stood on a hill overlooking the human colony. Lights stretched across the land like stars trapped on the ground. A soft wind moved her hair across her face. "This is your home," she said softly. Jason smiled. "Now it's yours too." She looked at the horizon. "I was afraid your people would reject me." "Some will," he said. "But they'll learn. You're stronger than any of them." She looked up at him. "And you, will you stay with me?" Jason took her hand, placed it over his heart. "I'll walk through fire if you ask me." Her lips parted. She stepped closer. Her forehead touched his. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I don't want fire anymore. I want peace. I want us." Jason kissed her gently. No heat. No tension. Just truth. In the days that followed, Xel'Nari joined the first human Tairaxi cultural team. She trained officers on how to read body signals, emotional shifts, and cross-species honor codes. Jason took up teaching at the academy. His class was named Bonds Beyond Biology. They lived in a quiet house by the river. Every morning she would make tea from her homeworld herbs. He would fix the antenna on the roof that never stayed in place. They laughed. They argued. They healed. One day, while walking by the market, a young Tairaxi child ran toward Xel'Nari and asked, "Is it true, you bonded with a human?" She bent down, smiled, and said, "Yes, and I would do it again." The child looked at Jason and said, "But humans are soft." Jason laughed. "Not when you burn for something worth protecting." The child blinked. then nodded seriously. I hope I burn for someone like that too. Xel'Nari took Jason's hand again. You make even fire gentle. Jason shook his head. You made me brave enough to hold it. And so the alien warrior and the human soldier built a life, not out of duty or law, but out of choice. A bond made in heat, forged in pain, and sealed by hearts that chose each other freely. They were proof that love didn't need to speak the same language, that it just needed to stay.